Hi everyone, I'm Francesca Maxime. This is WiseGirl. It is November 10th. It is a Thursday, a couple days after Election Day here in the United States. Yesterday, the weather was a little rainy, a little soggy, a little wet, and one could say that here in New York City, in some ways, it mirrored what the mood seemed to be. Sort of a lot of folks kind of walking around looking like they might be a little sad or stunned or otherwise kind of in a fog. And of course, that was not the case in lots of other parts of even New York State, perhaps upstate New York and also other parts of the country where people were very much celebrating the outcome of the presidential election that we just had. So rather than dwell on who won or how it went down and what we can do better and learn from that in a political way, I wanted to talk just for a moment about one of the things that we really do have in common, and as Americans, but also as humans, sort of in the greater body of humanity, and that is that all people, all beings really, all living beings, but all people want to be happy, right? Do you know anybody who really wants to be unhappy? I mean, maybe there's someone you know who's so sarcastic or so enjoying of the fact that they get to kind of get in a few little digs here and there in jokes and whatnot that they think are a fun twist of words. But for the most part, people tend to strive for a sense of safety, of security, of health and well-being, a desire to love and be loved, a fulfillment, a sense of purpose, a sense of contentment, a sense of security and knowledge that certain things are stable, if you will, and able to be banked on. And I think that a lot of folks have come to learn from all walks of life, all across the world, not even just here in the US of A, that a lot of the things that we thought we might be able to hold on to, we haven't been able to hold on to. And I think that can manifest in a variety of ways, including anger and frustration and even rage sometimes. But it can also, on the lower levels, like irritation or frustration, just manifest in our day-to-day interactions with people that we love and do care about, our family members, our colleagues. But that underneath all of that, oftentimes what's operating that we don't often realize is a real sense of sort of sadness or fear or anxiety, and a real sense of helplessness that sometimes we don't know what to do with and don't really know how to hold and how to be with, and in some ways feel as though we should reject it as opposed to make space for it and find some way to accept it. Sounds counterintuitive, to accept that which makes you sad or the circumstances of being sad or feeling helpless. We want to typically get out of that sooner rather than later. Even things as simple as restlessness or boredom, which are kind of neutral, we often don't want to just allow to be there. We sort of judge it and say, well, I shouldn't be feeling this way. It's awkward. I don't want to feel this way. And so then we run to go do something else. We might fill our time with a movie or with TV or out with people or food or drink or anything. So one of the teachings that I heard recently from a person who's worked with dying people for decades now in hospice care is that there is a lot of suffering in the world, an incredible amount really, in ways that are scaled on the large level, like people who can't breathe in clean air, for example in India, or large-scale natural disasters, tsunamis, to personal losses and tragedies, a child getting killed in a car accident or having a seizure, or the loss of a partner or loved one unexpectedly due to cancer or a heart attack, or even the loss of a pet, sometimes the loss of a home, sometimes the loss of a job, and many other levels of what can, for whomever the person it's important, create suffering for them. And what this teacher had to say was essentially that for as much suffering as there is in the world, and the range of it, there's also an ability as humans for us to meet that suffering with compassion. And that as much suffering as there is, there's compassion there too. And that in order to feel as though we can meet the suffering with the compassion, we often have to be willing to just create the space to hold them both and not see one as better than the other, but just to accept the fact that they are, and that we also know that everything is impermanent and non-lasting, and that eventually things do change. So the darkness, whatever darkness is in your life, never exists without the light, and the light doesn't exist without the darkness. So is there a way that we can cultivate our ability to be able to sit in that gray area where both are present, the shadow side and the luminous side, and take a deep breath and recognize that there is a way in which we can, given the maelstrom of feelings and emotions that we have and the external circumstances that happen around us that make us feel like we are triggered and want to react and do something, that we may choose to do something at some point. We may choose to have a wise action that we invest in. We may choose to give ourselves time to feel our feelings, to revel in joy when it's present and really savor it, and also mourn our sadness and our losses as they occur fully and completely, so that all of our energy doesn't go toward simply resisting the fact that they are uncomfortable feelings and that we would rather not feel that way or have the things manifest that made us feel less than ideal. So I guess at the end of the day, I think one of the things that perhaps we can just remember is that we do all have one thing that we share in common, which is that we all want to be happy. And one of the things that we might differ on is how do we go about doing that? And does one group of people being happy mean that there's less happiness for me? Well, it depends on how you look at it. There's a concept called sympathetic joy that means that if someone experiences a good thing in their lives and you're happy for them, that you too derive some of the benefits of their happiness. You know, sort of the counter to that would be jealousy or envy, or if they get this or they have that, that means that there won't be enough for me, and, you know, oh, woe is me. And I've certainly felt this. I absolutely know when I've come from this place, and it could be that my friend had the boyfriend and not me, or it could be that somebody else had the promotion, not me, or whatever. But then again, the part that I'm not recognizing or looking at is like, well, hey, you know what? Someone else got a cancer diagnosis that I don't have, or someone else just lost a loved one and I didn't. So I think that one of the things that we can maybe look toward is, what can we do to hold both sides in us, the darkness and the light? And what can we do to recognize that if everyone wants to be happy and we all ultimately want the same thing, how can we find a way to be non-harming to ourselves and others, and to be kind, and to try to create space and give ourselves time to process things so that we can come up with a skillful response and considered action about whatever it is in our life that we'd like to see more of and manifest. And in so doing, hopefully increase the happiness for all beings, which means that there's just more good stuff. It doesn't mean more for some people and less for me. So I would invite you to just maybe consider that. It's how I sort of see things a little bit. I don't know if you feel the same way, but if you do, it'd be great to hear from you. And yeah, you know how to find me on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, whatever it is. My handle is just my name, at Francesca Maxime. This is WiseGirl, and thanks so much for watching. Talk to you soon.